Okay, students, going to pick up where we left off after the first video for leaderboard. Where we left off was we had copied over the leaderboard code given to us on PLTW, and I showed you how to split up the lines in the leaderboard file. So you still need to add lines of code here that take the leader name and take the leader score and add them to the appropriate lists. The lists are called leader names and leader scores. So these lists are being sent to this load leaderboard function so that you can fill them from the file, and then wherever they were sent from, they'll be filled then. The tricky part with this leaderboard thing is, unlike with the example I gave you in activity 122, uh, there isn't anything in the leaderboard file to begin with. So if you're running a while loop that is looking for where we should put a new score, but there aren't any scores yet, then your while loop just isn't going to run because it has nothing to compare to. So that's something we're going to have to think about as we are completing the update leaderboard function. Additionally, in the update leaderboard function, you really have to pay close attention to the variable names. So we're given the same file name, just like we were up here in load leaderboard. We're given the list of leader names, the list of leader scores, and then we're also given a new player name and a new player score. So this code's going to be really similar to what we wrote in 122, but all the variable names are different, all of them. They have some code here that you can use to start off with, and this will work really well. Crucially, what they do here, they set it up a little bit differently than I did in my example from 122, and it actually works a little bit better the way they do it. So if you follow along with what they're doing, you'll be in good shape. So get your while loop so that it is indented correctly. Once again, we're going to need to make sure we're in bounds. So we have an index variable that has a super long name for some reason. So we need to make sure that that index variable doesn't go out of bounds. So just like every other while loop we've written, compare that index to the length of the list. Make sure it doesn't go out of bounds. Okay, then next, check to see if this is the position where we should insert the score. Same if statement from last time. Is the new value we got, which again is called player score this time. Be careful with your variables. Is the player score that we got bigger than the value from the leader scores list? Same code as we wrote last time. Here's where they do it differently, and this is going to work really well. If the value is bigger, we're going to break. Break means stop the loop. So they don't use the inserted variable where I had insert equals false and insert equals true. They're not using that. They're just saying, let's break. Let's get out of this while loop, because if I find a score that's bigger, then that means I'm in the right spot to insert this score. All right. Notice that we're not going to actually insert that score here. This is the most crucial thing if you're going to do it like they do it in their example. They're going to find the position where the score should go, but they're not actually going to insert the value until after the while loop. Why? Because of what I mentioned before I started talking about this function. What if there aren't any values in the leaderboard yet? What if our leaderboard is empty, or our leaderboard only has 3 values in it so far? So make sure you don't hard code a 5 in here. Leader index, don't do this. Leader index is less than 5. Instead of 5, what should you have here? So that regardless of how many leader scores there are, it will never go out of bounds. So think about what goes there in place of 5. Don't put 5 there because there may not be 5 scores yet. So anyway, if we find a place in the list where our new score is bigger, then the loop breaks. If we don't, we add 1 to the index. So if we're not bigger than the top score, we add 1 to the index. If we're not bigger than that score, we add 1 to the index. If we're not bigger than that score, we add 1 to the index, and we keep going until we run out of values to compare, and that's why you have your while loop condition there. So it stops as soon as we run out of values. So again, no matter how many values are in the list already, this will still work. So after the loop is done, down in here in to do 7, this is where we're going to insert the player and the score. Remember, there's 2 lists, players and scores. So we're going to insert both of them here. Where do they get inserted? That's the beautiful thing about their algorithm. Whatever leader index is at this time, that's where we're going to insert the score and uh, name. If there weren't any values to begin with, what is the value of leader index? If there's nothing in the leader scores list yet, what is the value of leader index? It's going to be 0, right? Because there was nothing to compare it to. So that means that the while loop doesn't run at all. So our leader index will be 0, and guess where our new score should go? At 0. If there was only 1 value in the leaderboard, then our leader index would be 1, because it would be like, well, did we beat that value? If we did, then it's going to break and it'll still be 0. If we didn't beat that top score, it'll add 1 to the leader index, and now leader index will be 1, and that's where it should go. So no matter what, the value of leader index is where we should insert our new name and score. Make sure you do both, insert into leader scores and leader names. However, we should only insert if we actually make the top 5. So how do I know if I made the top 5? We'll know if we made the top 5 if leader index is less than or equal to 5. Leader index will be 6 if the while loop runs the whole list of top 5 scores and never finds a score that it beats. Then it'll keep going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'll make it all the way to 6. 6 will be too big, and the loop breaks, and that means we didn't beat any scores. So if our leader index is less than or equal to 5, this is where we're going to insert our name and score. Insert name and score. Make sure you do those individually. One goes into the names list, one goes into the scores list. And then lastly, we're going to check to see if our list is now too big, and if it is, we're going to pop from each list. I'll let you figure out, how do we check to see if there's too many people on our leaderboard? I think you can figure that one out. All right, down here, this is an easy change. All we got to do is the exact same while loop that we do every single time. So again, they've got a counter. Check to make sure your counter is in bounds, and if it is, they take care of all the writing for you. And then the last function, they take the leader names that have been updated, the leader scores that have been updated, all that stuff, and then they just write stuff to the screen. So your job in this one is to come down here and write the if blocks, and it'll be if, elif, else, that kind of thing, to check to see whether we get a bronze medal, silver medal, or gold medal, depending on the scores at the top. So you may want to change these scores to something smaller so that you don't have to click so many times to test it. Okay, I think that covers it. You'll have to email me if you are struggling, getting an error that you can't solve. But I mean, the last thing I'll say is this is a hard problem. You're gonna get you know, you've already gotten lots of errors and out of bounds and infinite loops, and you're not alone in that. Everyone's getting those errors and infinite loops. It's not just you. So try and persevere. If you need to take a break and just let it kind of sit in the back of your mind for a day or a couple hours, and then come back and attack it with a fresh attitude, then do that. If you get really stuck, shoot me an email and I'll get back to you. Okay.